Hello again. I'm sure that we're all familiar with that ghastly platitude, dripping with virtue, to which so many people pay lip service. We aim to ensure that our staff reflect the community we serve. Everybody, from the BBC and police to the high street banks, now follow this dictum. Of course, this is just a way, really, of announcing that you will be instituting quotas based on skin colour and religion, but this doesn't sound nearly as right on and modern. Quotas for coloured people and Jews? They were bad things, right? Indeed they were, and today's version of the quota system is every bit as odious, although unfortunately a lot more damaging for us all. American universities used to have policies which meant that they limited the number of Jews they would admit, or perhaps would prevent black people becoming students at all. That sort of thing was atrocious and unfair and very damaging to the universities which operated that sort of policy. It would mean, for example, that when an absolutely brilliant physicist like Richard Feynman applied to a particular university, he was refused admission because they already had enough Jews that year. So he went off somewhere else and became the most brilliant physicist since the end of the Second World War. When you have quotas and you limit the number of people of certain ethnicities or religions, you're going to lose out sometimes on the best talent. The doctrine of reflecting the public is exactly the same in principle. It means offering jobs not on merit, but on whether your company or police force is short of black people or Asians. If it is, then you tinker with your recruitment policies and stop giving white people jobs for a bit until you have enough Muslims or West Indians or whatever other minority you think you're short of. Now, anybody with half a brain could see that if you do that, then you're likely to miss out on some first-rate white candidates while giving a leg up to black people or Asians who wouldn't otherwise make the grade. We all know that this happens, although it's considered impolite to draw attention to it. It's one of those mad schemes that we're not really supposed to notice in operation. How does it work out in practice? I thought I would give a couple of examples. I'm sure that we all remember a time when working for a bank was the ultimate respectable, if slightly dull, occupation. One would see advertisements in the school magazine urging those with 5 O-levels to come and work for the Midland Bank and giving examples of the salaries being offered and the way in which one might ultimately progress to the dizzying heights of being the manager of your own branch. I sometimes wish I had followed such a career path rather than gadding off to the Lord knows where in my youth, but there. In those days, one trusted bank managers and cashiers, and it was all but unheard of to come across dishonesty in bank staff. The enthusiasm for reflecting the community kicked in, though, and in the thumbnail to this video you may observe the natural consequences. Meet Hamza Ishaq. He doesn't look much like the archetypal image of a British bank clerk, does he? Still, HSBC, which is of course what the Midland Bank used to be called before it was taken over by the Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Corporation, for which of course HSBC stands, has been doing its best to get more ethnic minority staff in recent years, especially in cities like Leicester and Halifax, where there are large numbers of Asians. They are particularly keen to see that the front of office staff, the cashiers and so on, are Asian rather than white. The story of Hamza Ishaq rather sums up the disadvantages, though, of taking on staff simply because they are brown or Muslim, rather than because they are industrious, honest and likely to be trustworthy. He worked at the Leicester branch of HSBC as a cashier, and this must have given a good impression for the largely Muslim city of reflecting the population. In other words, it was a publicity stunt. It's great In Leicester, you've got lots of Asian Muslims, so HSBC will have loads of Asian Muslims working as cashiers in their banks. Of course, Isaac soon arranged for crooked friends to come into the bank and, ignoring the other cashiers, to come straight to his window. He then allowed them to draw out large sums of money from other people's accounts. A total, in fact, of £896,645 pounds and 5 pence. That's just short of £1 million. A curious aspect of the business, also indicative of our multicultural society, is that the accounts targeted for this fraud all belonged to Nigerians who were not in Britain at the time. Of course, Isaac was convicted of fraud, but also possession of a taser and £700 worth of cocaine. He was evidently dealing in his spare time as well. All in all, not the sort of fellow at whom those old advertisements for people with 5.0 levels were aimed. A second instance of where getting staff which reflects a community often leads was sent to me by a correspondent who is a police officer. He was on an advanced police training course at Hendon with other officers who all had between 5 and 7 years experience, except for one black guy who only had 3 years. This fellow wasn't really up to the business of driving fast while communicating with helicopters and so on, and it was very obvious to everybody, including the instructors. He was, however, passed on the course, and it was tacitly admitted that they needed a black person to qualify for the Metropolitan Police statistics, because otherwise it would look dreadful if only white people were passing the advanced police driving course. Quotas of all kinds are a lousy idea. Whether it's a quota limiting the number of Jews attending a university, or one which ensures that a black or Asian person gets a job in preference to a white person, the result is always the same: an overall reduction in the quality of those whom you employ or allow into your place of learning. Merit alone should be the only criteria for these things, not skin colour or religion.